Thank you for joining us. And before we get started with today's video, if you guys like what you're seeing and hearing from the Locked On Senators podcast, go ahead and hit like, smash the subscribe button so you can be the first to know about Sens content. Now, we're going to be doing a ton of these prospect profiles, so if you agree this is someone the Sens should look at or steer clear, leave your comment below so we can hear from you. Now, we got 64 of these, so let's get into it.
Coming in at number 35 on our NHL Draft rankings from the Moose Jaw Warriors, it's Jagger Firkus.
Jagger Firkus, what a name. You just put that name on text to me, Ross, and I could tell you right away that guy plays in the dub. That is a WHL type name. We always make jokes about it, but it's a stereotype for a reason. They got the craziest names over there, and Jagger Firkus is no different. Ross, I was surprised. I started typing Jagger Firkus in EP, and I was like, okay, he's going to be the only guy that shows up. There are a lot of Jaggers in the hockey world. It's a common name. So I thought that was pretty funny. But let's focus on Jagger Firkus here with the Moose Jaw Warriors. If you're watching on YouTube, Ross pulled up the graphic. He's a right winger sitting at 5'10", 153 pounds. So a small guy. That's similar dimensions to a lot of the small defensemen we've been talking about here. But puts up big points, Ross, in 66 games played, 36 goals, 44 assists, good for 80 points. And yes, the big note here is he's grown and he's got some more growing to do.
Yeah, he certainly has. And when he was drafted, get this, when he was drafted into the WHL, he was 5'5" and wait for it, 125 pounds, Pilsy. Ooh. Now, to be fair, the WHL drafts their players a year younger, so he's 14 years old at the time. But in the last 3 years, he's grown 5 inches and put on over 25 pounds. So scouts are like, okay, is he done growing? Because that is the only knock on him. This is an electrifying offensive talent, one of the best shots in the draft, one of the best guys at controlling the pace of play in the offensive zone. I was pretty upset that I missed out on seeing Moose Jaw and Winnipeg in the playoffs. It was such a quick series. I was going to go to game 6 or 7, but Winnipeg was able to dominate them in 5 games, just the way it went. I was able to get to the East Final. We'll get to a couple players from that coming up. But Jagger Firkus, man, this guy, he's got the most goals by a draft eligible in the WHL. Yes, one more than Matthew Savoy. 36 goals, Pills. This guy puts the puck in the back of the net, does it in a number of ways, but most impressive to me is his shot. And we're in that range of the draft. We had 2 guys on yesterday in terms, it was Adam Ingram and pardon me, I'm forgetting the other guy. Gleb Trikasov, 2 guys with elite shots. Well, I'd put him pretty well in the same category there.
I've got Jagger Firkus ahead of Trikasov for sure with his shot. Maybe closer to Ingram. But the thing with Firkus, Ross, is it's all about the release. That's where it happens. And 80 points in the season. We're really starting to see some dominance in prospects that we're getting to now. He was named player of the game in the CHL Top Prospects game. And yeah, you mentioned it. They played the Winnipeg Ice in the playoffs. They lost in 5 games and happened quick, but don't put that one on Jagger.
Yeah, it is, guys.
Yeah, he had 6 points in the last 3 games, and in those 3 games had 15 shots. So like he was one of the Warriors really battling in that one.
Hey, I like that. Nice little pun there. We'll get to his rankings, then I'll pick up on that point. So Craig Button, and this kind of surprised me because Button, I think, goes more the prototypical NHL scouts where it's like, okay, size, speed, that sort of thing. And his speed isn't an issue at all. I'm not saying that. But Craig Button having him 15th really kind of jumped out of the page to me especially. And Bob McKenzie, we got to remember, he's semi-retired. He put these rankings out at Christmas. So his are the oldest of all of them, but it's the Bob father. We needed to get him in the mix. He had him as an honorable mention. Scott Wheeler at 53. Corey Prodman at 30. Tony Ferrari at 27. And Elite Prospects had him at 22. Mitch Brown really going to battle for him. A guy who covers the WHL day in and day out. So I think that tells you what you need to know about the sphere of scouts, what they think of him. And I think what you need to know is that his size wasn't an issue in the playoffs. When things tighten up, when the hitting gets stronger, he elevated his game. And I think that is a big reason why his stock is just soaring. Going into this season, he was labeled as a C-level prospect by NHL Central Scouting. That's like third, fourth round, and now he is a bona fide top 40 pick in this draft. I think a team's going to take him in the first round.
I wouldn't be surprised when you have a shot like that and the offensive capabilities that he has. Ross, he scored a lacrosse goal this season, and as a goalie, I'm not a fan of the lacrosse goal. I think it's a high sticking play like every single time. You smack the goalie in the face like every time, but that's neither here nor there. We can get into it in a whole nother discussion. It looks sweet, though. I'm not going to deny that. And to be able to pull that off, you got to have sick mitts, which Firkus definitely has. And you mentioned it. EP's very high on him. Go check out Cam Robinson's article. He does a whole film room discussion, and he breaks down how Firkus uses his body to get maximum power with his release. Like, it's really cool to see, like, okay, here's where he shifts his hands. Here's where his hips open up, all that kind of stuff. So definitely recommend checking that out. And as EP does, they dissect his skating, and he needs to work on his stride, which you talked about it. Growing 5 inches that quickly, it's going to mess up your stride. It's going to take time to kind of refocus how you're going to work that. He can be really deceptive with his stick skills, like we talked about, the sick mitts. And that's where he doesn't need to rely on being a good skater for a small guy, because he's so shifty with his dekes that he's like, I don't need to flash around you or use agility to get around you. I'll just go right through you if I want. And that's the impressive part about Firkus for me, is he's able to overcome being a smaller guy, but he does it in a different way than most small guys do. Like, he's not that elusive guy that you just can't seem to hit or check. He'll just go right through you, and if you make contact with him, he's gonna make you look silly because you're probably gonna guess the wrong way, and then you're gonna break your ankles, and he's gonna go around for a breakaway. So Firkus is like the offensive capabilities is very, very impressive.
Intriguing. I'll say this is a guy with a very low floor, but extremely high ceiling. If he's either going to be an AHL All-Star or an NHL All-Star, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see him on like a third or fourth line in the NHL, but if you can get him in the right position and he's able to fix that stride a little bit as he gets comfortable with this added weight, which we hope continues to grow, because he's not playing top 6 forward, I don't think, at the NHL level at 150 pounds. Is there a forward that's 150 pounds right now in the NHL? I'd struggle to find one.
I was trying to. Nathan Gerby's got to be around there, but he's kind of in and out of NHL rosters here. That's the only guy I can think of.
AHL All-Star right there.
Yeah, there you go. Gerby. Yeah, honestly.
But there is potential here. Like, he is a boom or bust, in my opinion. However, the boom would make a GM and coach extremely happy, because the compete is definitely there for Firkus every single shift. We'll pull up his elite prospects page as well, and like just the way that he's able to elevate when the games matter most. I think that's something that's going to really attract NHL scouts to pick him maybe earlier than you would for some players with red flags, as though he does have a few.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple red flags. Some of those other ones that I kind of found is sometimes he tries to do too much and turns the puck over rather than making a simple play. That's where he's trying to out-deke a guy twice when you only have to out-deke him once. You don't need to do the dipsy doodle back again when you've already got past him, which sometimes he ends up doing. So he needs to make simpler plays at times, but hey, it's not that big of a fault if you see a guy that's trying to do too much, rather than a guy like Gleb Trikazov that we talked about yesterday, who sometimes is just standing still hanging out, right? So I'll take that over that any day. And I think, like you said, the offensive talents are there, and I really see him as being a big piece of a top power play unit one day.
Just so we're clear here, if you're watching on YouTube, that photo is not of this year, where he looks
he looks tiny there.
Yeah. April 29th, 2004 birthdays in Alberta boy. They've got him at 5'10" here on Elite Prospects as well, for them to be on par with NHL Central Scouting. But you were able to see, right? He got to play like sick, man. Going back to midget last year when the WHL was down 11 points in 4 games. How are you? But got his little taste of WHL action, played all 23 games in the bubble. And then this year, it was just explosive for him. Night in and night out, best player on the Moose Jaw Warriors. And when we go and look at this team, they've got another draft eligible who's coming up here in Denton Matejchuk, who we'll get to. But they've got some drafted guys in the mix there, and he led the team in scoring. 2 less games than Ryder Korzak, who was a part of the 2021 draft. I believe we did profile him last year as well. But man, Firkus is a guy whose stock continues to soar. However, for the Ottawa Senators and knowing the way they draft, I'm just going to stick with 3 stars for him. Again, I would be happy if they take him. I think the offensive upside warrants a selection if he's available. Again, we're in the range of their first, second round pick here. So that's where I'm having it. Like, okay, if you see enough out of him that you want to take him, I think that he could fit down the road. But again, not a guy I'm banging on the table for either.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think he's someone that I feel like you can take a home run swing on his offense, though, Ross. Like,
Sure.
I really think his release is good enough right now, that he could beat NHL goalies right now. Like,
Sure.
that's how good his release is. So
Yep.
when you have a defining ability like that, you can bank on that and you hope that all the other things come together. So I think I'm a little higher on him than you are. I'm giving him 4 stars here just because I think the Senators, it seems like they never bank on a guy with an incredible shot or where that's his one thing. So I wouldn't mind getting one guy like that in the system. So for me, I got Jagger Firkus at 4 stars.